I think there's many great things going on in the world and the economy. Obviously, it's being hidden in the narrative, and obviously the reality of really elevated inflation. Markets that are down 18% in equities, down pretty close to 18% in bonds, the appreciation of the dollar. So there's a whole reset in the marketplace. And the reality, the U.S. is feeling much less pain than other parts of the world because of the dollar appreciation and other issues. But I actually believe inflation will be abating very rapidly.
Will evade rapidly.
Yeah, I mean, is it going to go back down to 2%, which is their objective? That's going to be hard, and that's going to be the fundamental issue. Where is an acceptable level of inflation? I mean, in my 40-something years of being in markets, you would have dreamed for 3 or 4% inflation. So we set this target now of 2%, which can be debated why 2, and I've had conversations on that. My biggest worry is not that we're not going to see a falling of inflation back to 3 or 4%. My biggest worry is the world is losing hope. We have seen a collapse in birth rates and demographics. We're actually going to enter a period of more what I would call malaise. We are all seeing the transformation of China going from what I would have called a very economic-minded economy to a more ideological economy. We're seeing the attendant effects on that, and we're seeing a Chinese economy slowing down to a 3. We have the European economy that is really fundamentally changed right now related to the Russian gas and the cost of energy and the fiscal support by governments. And so I believe after we get out of this real spike in inflation, we're going to be waking up to a world that's going to be a 2-ish, 3% world with maybe 3 or 4% inflation. And I think that's going to be the fundamental issue that we're going to be facing. And because of the situation that we saw just 6-8 weeks ago in the UK, there is a limit on how much fiscal stimulus governments can rationally do without having the marketplace rebel, and that's what happened in the UK. So after we get out of this burst of inflation, it is my fear that we are not going to have the ability for any fiscal stimulus for any time soon. Deficits do matter. And at the same time, the central banks are going to take years in which they're going to have to unwind all their quantitative easing, all their bond purchases that they did over the last 10 years and aggressively in the last few years. They're not going to be as fully equipped to re-stimulate the economy. So we believe we're going to have rates fundamentally higher, maybe where they are today. They're not going to go down. At the same time, we're just not going to have an economy that is based on real growth that we are accustomed to.
So what does that mean for everybody here who has a 401k or money in the stock market?
I would say for long-term investors, this is a great paradigm because...
But if the other side of it is some kind of malaise...
Yeah, but Andrew, if you look at what it took to... Over 50% of our assets are retirement assets, and all I do is focus on how do we get to a long-term outcome, and all my letters are based on that long-term ideal. It is actually easier to meet your long-term liability, which everybody assumes about a 7 or 8% return over 20, 30 years. You're going to have a nice pool of money. It is actually safer to invest to get that return today because you have 2 years trading at a 4 1/4. You have 10-year credit you could buy, at a 5-6% return. I actually believe we're going to go from this hyper